here. I love this conversation because, I got some tough questions for you that I'm going to throw at you, hopefully here in the first and second half. So, okay. 30 years as a meteorologist, we'll see how you do here with the questions coming at you. And our Creation Today partners are going to try to throw questions at you. So we'll see how that goes. All right.
Okay.
Awesome. Hey, thank you guys for joining me. Sorry, we had a couple technical difficulties and we're a little bit late. I want to start by saying this. There is no question about it. You can take this fact to the bank every single day and it's gonna cash. There was an ice age. Now, the bigger question is, when was it? Another question, how many of them have there been? And does the evidence corroborate that word with a biblical history, or is it a problem for the biblical timeline? We're going to give you those answers today. I want to welcome those of you joining me by YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, Twitter, and of course, our podcast listeners. My name is Eric Hovind. I'm the president of Creation Today, and we're just a community of people that are trying to change the world one person at a time through biblical discipleship. And we want to help turn stumbling blocks into stepping stones on people's journey to Christ. I have a giveaway for you guys today, and you could be the winner, so stay tuned for that. I'll tell you about that in just a second. By the way, I saw Anna tagged at Creation Today with her post on Instagram this last week while she was watching the show with Danny Faulkner and myself, and I just think that's really cool. We love it when people tag us, when you guys tag us in your post. So feel free to give us a follow on Instagram to keep up to date with our webinars, and we do lots of cool content like trivia and giveaways and more. So love it when you guys do that. Special thank you to a couple partners that are partners with Creation Today. Shout out to Leslie in California, Peter in the Czech Republic, and Olin, who is actually deployed with our armed services. Thank you for serving us. We really appreciate it, and thank you for being a partner with Creation Today. By the way, many of our show topics, like this one on the Ice Age, and people that we can use as guests, those come from viewers just like you. So if you have an idea for a topic or an idea for a guest or both, feel free to leave a comment or just go ahead and send me an email, Eric Hovind at creationtoday.org. Would love to know who you would like to have. Hey, my guest today is none other than Dr. Michael Oard. He spent 30 years as a meteorologist studying, researching. He knows a lot about weather. He could probably identify any cloud in the sky, those things that you had to study in high school, you know, the stratus and the cumulus and I'm sure he would. I was going to have a little quiz for you, Doc, and try to stump you, but I doubt those are going to stump you. Welcome to today's show, sir. We really appreciate you being here.
Hey, welcome. Glad to be there or here.
Hey, we're going to talk about the biblical Ice Age, or the Ice Age in general, and find out if it was biblical. You're going to have, by the end of this, you're going to have an answer for us, right?
Oh, I should.
That's what I'm hoping. I'm going.
For 45 years.
Wow, that's amazing. After 45 years of study, you've got it figured out. Well, hopefully in just less than an hour, we're going to have this figured out. By the way, I want to give away a book to somebody. We try to do this each show, Doc, and just share something with the community. The book we're doing today, it's an ebook called Frozen in Time. And so if you want a copy of this book, Frozen in Time, I need you to, well, they already got it. I don't get to ask you what to do. I want you to put in the comments, just write, I want that book, and tag onto that your favorite Christmas song. And if you're not a Christmas lover, you can just put no Christmas songs for me. I doubt the girls in the office are going to pick you if you put that. You might want to just make one up, but they're over there. They're going to find out if they like you by what song you put. So write, I want that book and your favorite Christmas song, and we'll tell you who the winner is here in just a few minutes. You guys get those in the chat right now. Well, Doc, I want to find out if science confirms just an ice age in general. Then I want to find out what's necessary in science to create an ice age, and how many different models there are for the ice age, and what are the problems with it. And Then I want to find out if the Bible is a good solution for the Ice Age. So let's start off with, what's the science behind the idea that there was an Ice Age? I mean, I've seen the movies about it. I want to know if the squirrel ever gets the nut, all that stuff, okay? What's the deal with the Ice Age?
Well, what ice left behind, which we can infer from presently glaciated areas, are found all over the high latitudes and in some locations in the mid latitudes, like the northern United States down to Kansas City, St. Louis line, even though there's not a lot of good evidence down that far. It's more further up in Minnesota, but you can see this evidence. And if I could share my screen without locking up like the first time, I could show you these, but I think I better leave well enough alone at this point. But we have lots of end moraines, which are ridges in front of glaciers, where the glacier pushed ahead and melted and left a ridge of debris in the front of it called an end or terminal moraine. And along the sides, it's a lateral moraine. And so we see that and a lot of scratched bedrock and features like this. And so it's an inference that there was an ice age, and the fact that the striated bedrock is not weathered out by erosion indicates that the ice age was not that long ago. So that's our evidence for an ice age. And you know, when that was first started in the middle 1800s, it was a challenge to uniformitarianism because we didn't have ice sheets over North America or Scandinavia into Northern Europe and Northwest Asia. So Lyell never accepted it, and it was an assault on uniformitarianism right away. But the evidence was so abundant, thousands of pieces, that the scientific community had to accept it. But it took about 30 years. It's an interesting history. But
Now,
anyway, that's the evidence for the Ice Age.
when you mention Lyell, you're talking about Charles Lyell,
Yes.
the one who really helped come up with the geologic column, his book, Principles of Geology.
Yes.
So at that time, because an ice age was a problem for his views, he rejected the ice age.
Yes, he never did accept it. I think Darwin did later, but because Darwin essentially was a student of Lyell,
Right.
and he finally did, even though he he wrote some papers based on Lyell's ideas that were totally wrong. The parallel roads of Glenroy in Scotland, he thought were raised sea level about 800 feet or meters, I forgot. But actually they were shorelines from a glacial lake. So
Wow.
anyway, one of his first papers of Darwin was totally wrong. I mean, he was a geologist before he was a biologist. So it's a good thing to remember.
So the evidence we see today shows literal sheets of ice all the way down into North America,
Yes.
all the way down into the United States, North America.
Yes, the northern United States, from Olympia, Washington to Great Falls, Montana, eastward into North Dakota, then southeast from there, and back up into Pennsylvania.
Wow.
I'd show you a map if I trusted my share screen.
I'm like, oh, you're killing me here. I'm like, I want them to see this. Like, how far down did it go? You think your computer might lock up again if that happens?
Well, if I think we could take a chance. I rebooted the thing and it seems to work. So here it goes.
Let's go for it.
Okay, I will show you.
Boom. We've got it.
well,
Oh,
the
look at those
best-
scratch marks. That's
Yeah.
look at that.
That's west of Great Falls, Montana, in the Rocky Mountain front. This one right here is lateral. Oop, what happened? Uh-oh.
Okay, we're in full. That's all right. You're in presentation mode. You can hit escape.
Yeah. Maybe I'll just show my screen.
Like that.
Yeah, this one right here, where you can see my cursor.
Yep.
That's northeast Wallowa Mountains in northeast Oregon, and this is glacial, this is Wallowa Lake, over deepened, and you see though that horseshoe moraine around the edge?
Yeah, what happens if you double click that image? Does that make it big? There.
Yes.
Oh, neat. So those
And
sides right there, wow.
and look how it's fairly sharp still. And here it is looking at the bottom, and the trees are scaled. That's 600 feet tall, indicating that ice in that valley was probably 2,500 feet. And the material in the moraine is typical of glacial material, with boulders and rocks of all sizes in a finer grained matrix. So, and we have these big erratic boulders transported, like this is southwest of Calgary, Alberta, probably from a glacial river carrying an iceberg. So we have a ton of evidence for the ice. And so
And
there
that
was
one
an ice
boulder,
age.
that one boulder weighs more than a ton. So we have tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of evidence.
That
No
probably
doubt
weighs
about it.
200,000 tons, I'll bet.
Oh my goodness. So,
And,
go ahead.
and I have one here that weighs maybe 180 tons, and it's Ardulite, which doesn't outcrop in the whole state of Oregon, but it's found southwest of Portland, Oregon. And this is from the Lake Missoula flood, which here's a map of the glacial Lake Missoula here, backed up by a finger of the ice in northern Idaho. This lake was 2,000 feet deep at the Montana-Idaho border, and then it broke all at once and carved up eastern Washington and sent these icebergs all over eastern Washington and down in the Willamette Valley south of Portland. And that's how we explain that metamorphic shale Ardulite boulder that actually outcrops in this area up in here in western Montana and northern Idaho. So there was an ice age. That's the point.
How many miles away is that when you go, okay, that boulder that you just showed, that rock doesn't exist around there. It actually exists. That rock is how far away? How far did it have to come from?
Yeah, that type of rock doesn't outcrop in all of Oregon, and it's probably transported 500 miles, 600 miles. So icebergs, there's all kinds of these erratic boulders all through the Willamette Valley, hundreds of them. They're mostly granite, but in this case, it's a metamorphic shale called Ardulite, which is a very unique rock that comes from the belt supergroup rocks of western Montana, northern Idaho, and extreme northeast Washington. So the point of all this is that there was an ice age.
Well, what does it take? I want to find out, what does it take to get an ice age? What do you need? And then what are the secular models versus the biblical model? Let's start with, what in the world does it take to actually have an ice age, to create one of these things around the globe?
First of all, here's where it's found. I'll get to that. And notice that the lowlands of Alaska were not glaciated, but only the mountains. And here's an area right in here that was never glaciated, well within the boundary. And this is the general location in Europe and Asia, but this is an old, and there's been controversy on how much is glaciated in northwest Siberia, and the Barents Sea north of Norway now we know is glaciated. So what are the conditions for an ice age? There they are. You need cooler summers. Winters are already cold enough in practically all areas. In fact, they're so cold that because the colder the air, the drier. All these areas that are cold in winter would benefit from a warmer winter, which they would have had in this model. But you need cooler summers so that the snow won't melt over the summer, and so it could pile up year after year. But you also need much greater snowfall, which means huge amount of moisture from somewhere. And you can't just get a climate change for 1 year. It has to persist for many years. So that's the requirements for an ice age. And,
all you homeschoolers, write those down. Those are going to be on your test. I'm writing them down in my notes right now. So cooler summers, a lot more snowfall, and this has to be over an extended, like how many years? I mean, are we talking a couple of years would create it, or you need decades
hundreds of
to create
years. The secular scientists based their ideas on millions of years and on assumptions, and the astronomical theory of the ice age, or the Milankovitch mechanism, which they love because it cycles the solar radiation over the earth. But because of the tilt of the Earth a little bit. The eccentricity of the Earth's orbit around the sun changes a little, and the precession of the equinoxes. But the net effect of all this radiation change is very small. And this theory's been around since the middle 1800s, and meteorologists have said a number of times it's too weak. And I've shown this in some of my publications, it's too weak. Because if you realize how much cooling you need and how much snowfall, you would really realize that. And I can go to the next slide that shows this. This is just a computer model where a man just, he wanted to find out where the 1 inch line was left after the summer melting in the early fall. And so he cooled off the average summer temperatures of Canada by increments of 2 degrees centigrade, which is 3 degrees Fahrenheit. And his 1 inch line, you could see, is only in northeast Canada right there. When he cooled the temperature, the average summer temperature of Canada down 12 degrees centigrade. That's where he got it. But the ice was further south of the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
So I used what would it take to get to Minneapolis, for instance, which is typical of the northern edge of the ice sheet in the United States. The average temperatures are 70 degrees, but you got to drop the temperature in the summer, as well as the late spring and early fall, of course, down to at least 32 degrees. But we know people that live in northern climates like I do know that snow can melt in the spring with a lot of sunshine at well below freezing, starts melting. So I went to the lowlands of Antarctica to a research paper in Quaternary Research. And the net melting, as the temperature warmed in the spring in Antarctica at the lowlands, when it hit 14 degrees Fahrenheit, you had net melting in Antarctica. So that would be the case for Minneapolis. But I decided to be conservative and only said it had to cool down to 20 degrees Fahrenheit. And so that's a drop of 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's
average summer
temperatures.
Drop. You're talking average summer temperatures have to be 50 degrees cooler than they are. So Florida.
At least.
Whoa. That's a huge drop. How in the world do you get that's global cooling right there. How do you create global cooling like that? I mean,
well, you see that because they assume uniformitarianism, the present the key to the past, there isn't much in the present that's going to cause a climate change like that. So they kind of fudge a little bit and go to the past and use the astronomical theory of the Ice Age with these cycles. Like the tilt cycle varies from 22.5 degrees to 24.5 degrees over a period of 41,000 years. And so they use these things. And by the way, it gives them multiple ice ages, which they love. And that's the only a point of them having it, is because their only supposed evidence is this astronomical theory that cycles over millions of years with these cycles. And so they use that. But like I said, they're very small. In fact, experts on the Ice Age will admit, this is one of my favorite quotes from this old book, but it's still, I get quotes like this that are very recent in the scientific literature. J.K. Charlesworth in the book, The Quaternary Era, on page 1532, it's a 1700-page book. He said, Pleistocene phenomenon, Pleistocene is the jargon for an ice age, same with Quaternary. They're generally the general ice age period in the uniformitarian model. Pleistocene phenomena produced an absolute riot of theories, ranging from the remotely possible to the mutually contradictory and the palpably inadequate. And I might add, there's been 60 theories on the origin of the Ice Age, but they've settled in the last 50 years on the astronomical theory, which I've quickly gone through for you. But the upshot of that is it's very small. So they can't get
settle on this. You said they do settle on one theory, the one going through the cycles, how the tilt of the Earth, the astronomical Ice Age, but that one has its own. It's a very narrow chance of that actually being true, but they're kind of settling on that.
Yes, because number one, they like cycles and it gives them cycles, so they can talk about multiple ice ages. But the change in solar radiation is very slight, and John Reed and I just published a series of papers on this in the Creation Research Society Quarterly, demonstrating that these cycles, of which the tilt is just one of three, are very weak, and they're not going to produce these ice ages because you need these huge temperature changes.
Yeah, so that degree of tilt difference is not going to give you a 50-degree temperature difference in the summer.
Right. For the whole summer, year after year.
Not just one summer, extended periods of summer for a long time.
Right.
Well, I want to find out. I've got to let the people on social media go here in just a second. I want to give away the book. I got to let them go. But before I do, can you answer the question that's on your screen right now with just a yes or a no, and then give the explanation after I let them go? Yes or no, can the biblical worldview actually explain, the idea of the flood, because we don't read, Genesis chapter, 12, and, the world was flooded, and then God caused a great sheet of ice to come upon the earth.
Exactly.
We're not seeing that, but do you think the evidence we see goes with the biblical history and biblical timeline?
I think it's the Bible is the only explanation, which is a provocative idea, but after you give away that, I'll tell you about it.
Okay, I want to talk about that here in just a second. Hey, for those of you joining me on social media, thank you. Several of you have commented. Our Creation Today member winner for the book is Lucy Hayes. Lucy, thanks for joining us today. On the Genesis Facebook page, watching on Facebook, Victoria Wester, you are the winner. Please email us at info@creationtoday.org, info@creationtoday.org. I think I got that right. And you're getting the book Frozen in Time. And let's see here. On YouTube, the Granola Creationist. You sound like an outdoor hiker. The Granola Creationist. I hope you put M&Ms and raisins in your granola. You are the winner on YouTube, and I want to thank you guys for joining me. Hey, if you want to join a community of people that are growing and doing discipleship together, let me invite you to become a Creation Today member or partner with us at creationtoday.org. By the way, just a little side note, if we get 8 more partners in the next 3 days, I have promised my team a steak dinner. I've got to cook them a steak dinner. If we get 8 more partners. So if you think that they are worthy with everything they do, which they're behind the scenes a lot of times, I know it, but everything we do is out there. If you think they're worthy of a steak dinner, well, then you become a partner today, and our partners enjoy, not really just the rest of this conversation, but every conversation we have, and they get to ask our experts their own questions in the second half. So would you consider that? You now, by the way, have less than 24 days to make an impact in 2021. And we would consider it an honor if you would prayerfully consider a partnership with Creation Today in your plans to make an eternal impact with the time that we have left. Next week, I'm going to give you a sneak peek inside the Atheist Playbook. That should be a fantastic conversation. You don't want to miss that. It'll be live next Wednesday at 12 noon Central Time. Thanks for joining us, guys. All right, Doc, let's get into this. How does the evidence that we see today confirm the biblical timeline for the Ice Age? Let's hit this.
Okay. We have to first put it in our time frame.